Hi guys, happy Victober to you, and I am here for the next video in my top 10 Victorian books series I am doing in honor of Victober. And this is the first Victorian novel I read in full, and that is Jane Eyre by Miss Charlotte Bronte. When you are in the mood for something gothic, something atmospheric, full of passion, full of intrigue and secrets and lies, this is just the perfect thing to read. I think it's so perfect for fall or winter. I reread it January of 2016 and it just made my January. This is another classic. The Brontes do it so well, where it is so engaging. It does not feel like you're reading a classic. This is written in first person. It's talked about so much, but in case you don't know, Jane Eyre is the story of Jane. She is an orphan and at first lives with her aunt to read, and then eventually goes to an all-girls boarding school where the conditions are very adverse, both hygienic-wise and also just emotionally and spiritually. It's a very oppressive environment. Kind of a joyless Christianity, which is not how Christianity is or is supposed to be. So it's an example of a really joyless Christianity. So while she's there, she does form a couple friendships. And then eventually when she's grown, she becomes a governess and leaves for Thornfield Hall, where she is just totally kind of swept off her feet almost by being in this place where she has kind of true freedom for the first time and has people who treat her as an equal, including Mr. Rochester, who is the master of the house, but he's also a puzzle and acts differently at different times. So certain times they have these really rewarding, very intimate conversations, and then other times he's very standoffish. She doesn't know what to make of him, and but you can tell that she definitely has intrigued him, and she's someone who, even for having her low status in life, she's very she's just well spoken. She's able to hold a conversation well, and a thing that I really admire about Jane is she does not think that having less wealth means that she is less of a person. She really understands that status from wealth doesn't necessarily mean you are a better person, and she really has great respect for herself, and I just love that so much. And then the dialogue in this is wonderful, especially between Jane and Rochester. The flirting that happens, it's just so it's pretty wild. I read it, I'm like, this doesn't feel Victorian. It's just so entertaining. So I do, like I said, I do love that this is narrated in first person. You do come out of it feeling that you know Jane so well, and you really just come to love her and respect her so much. I will say, since it is Gothic and since it is Victorian, the plot, it might be slightly contrived, but if you can set that aside, and if you're in the mood for melodramatic Victorian literature, which often Victorian literature is over the top, some of it less so, like George Eliot is less melodramatic, but if that's what you're in the mood for, then just ride it out and enjoy the ride. Obviously, I'm not going to say more about the plot because spoilers, in case there's some of you who don't know. So what I think is fun about this is it's a layman's classic. I think there are plenty of people who don't do literary analysis. I do very little literary analysis. You know, I didn't go to college for English. I love to hear people talk about it, but I don't think I'm good on my own necessarily, like doing really heavy literary analysis, and I am able to really enjoy this. But then what's really neat, it lends itself so well to literary analysis. And so I've appreciated when I've heard about that, the symbolism. Foyle characters, there are several sets of foil characters, which a foil character are two characters who are polar opposites of one another. And I wouldn't have noticed that until I saw like somebody left notes in a used copy of Jane Eyre. And I thought, oh my goodness, like they are totally foil characters of each other. And foreshadowing things that maybe you didn't pick up in the beginning. So if you want kind of a feminist study, feminist take on Jane Eyre, I'll link Jen Campbell's video down below. It's very interesting. I'm not sure if I totally track with all of it, but it's really interesting nonetheless. I know a lot of feminists really appreciate Jane Eyre. So that's a really interesting video. Another thing about this is it's a book for book lovers. Jane loves to read. She loves to read and she loves stories. She loves looking at books. This book starts out and she's looking, one of the very beginning scenes, she's looking at a book with pictures of birds. So I think that's a really special, like, extra treat about this book, is that book lovers can love it too. You know, even more so than they would if it didn't have the book loving in it. So yes, those are basically all my thoughts on Jane Eyre, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. In case any of you weren't convinced that you should read Jane Eyre, don't read this for relationship goals. This is not, no, it's just not. But it's a very entertaining and riveting story. So yes, I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you for another bookish video soon. Bye guys.